All right. Well, welcome everyone. Glad to see you here this evening. My name is JD and I'm the facilitator this evening. Um, Very happy to be with you all again this week. Also, hello to the people that are online. I think I see a couple of faces up there. Hi, I recognize for sure. Yeah, good to see you all. Thanks for coming. Hi, how are you doing? Good to see you. Wonderful, wonderful. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about aspects of that last practice that we shared in the meditation. Loving kindness practice. And I'm going to take a little while to get there, give you a little background around that. Um, I first moved to California in 1992. At the time, I was married, didn't know much of anyone here. And within about a year, my ex-wife and I broke up. We separated. Um, it was a little bit shocking to be I moved here from Austin, Texas, a much bigger city, a place again that I didn't know a lot of people. And often in situations like that, maybe in some of your lives, there's a sudden need to connect or learn or journey, find our way, find some deeper meaning in our lives. And that's what I began to do. One of the things that I did at that point is someone gave me a book by an author. I'm dating myself now, an author named Carlos Castaneda. It's a book called Journey to Ixtlan. And in these books, there's a series of books. Carlos comes across a shaman, uh, a Yaqui shaman, that the Yaqui peoples are in northern Sonora, Mexico, and southern Arizona, and begins to study with him. He is on his own journey, a similar kind of journey of discovery. And along the way, as I'm reading the books, I saw themes that are similar, now I know, to some of the teachings in Buddhism. One of them is that we're all on our own journey. The Buddha offers teachings, and other teachers offer teachings that we are to consider and not necessarily to take as moral code or, hard instructions, to find out what works for us, to find our own way along the way. Um, Another instruction or guidance that this shaman gave was not to be too attached to identity, our identities, to make it hardened, uh, or the importance of ourself, of us as a self, something really, really singular and hard. To have a lighter perspective about that. Another one was that death is an advisor about our impermanence in this world. The reality that we are finite beings, at least physically, informs us about how we might want to live our lives in the moments of our lives, understanding that, we will not be here forever. Um, Seeing the present moment without our perpetual conditioning or perception, which often is hard for us to do, because we are conditioned beings. We have all kinds of things that go into making us who we are, and we often see through that lens. In Buddhism, mindfulness might be another way of looking at that. Seeing clearly what's happening right now, maybe sometimes around that or without that conditioned response to it. And then this is a little different, but connecting with the natural world. This is again something that we can do mindfully in some of the ways that I did in the beginning of the meditation, connecting with our senses, our bodies, our hearts, our minds, people, and other beings around us with the earth. Um, in this particular guidance, it was often done with the aid of psychoactive plants and journeys, but that's not really part of our practice in Buddhism, unless it's a deep state of meditation, maybe. But what I remember the most about that book, the most to this day, is a question that Carlos asked this shaman at one point in his life. He asked, Don Juan was the shaman's name. There are all kinds of paths in front of me. I'm always coming up to some different fork in the road. How do I choose? How do I choose? How do I know where to go? And this is what Don Juan replied. Look at every path closely and deliberately. Try it as many times as you think necessary. Then ask yourself and yourself alone, does this path have a heart? Does this path have a heart? If it does, the path is good. If it doesn't, it's of no use. This was his instruction. So around the same time that I was reading that book, I was in a bookstore and I look on the bookshelf and I see a book with the title A Path with Heart. Wow, there's a book. Somebody wrote a book about this, another book. That book was written by the revered Buddhist teacher that I'm sure some of you have heard of, Jack Kornfield, in 1993, that same year that I separated from my ex-wife. And as I'm flipping through the first chapter of that book, what do I see on the second page of the first chapter? That exact quote from Carlos Castaneda. That exact quote. So something in that book must have inspired or at least resonated with Jack Kornfield when he wrote his book called A Path with Heart. He has a preamble in his book in the first chapter that goes like this. Even the most exalted states and the most exceptional spiritual accomplishments are unimportant if we cannot be happy in the most basic and ordinary ways. If we cannot touch one another and the life we have been given with our hearts. So my preconceived idea about what Buddhism was exactly pursuing altered states, having exceptional spiritual accomplishments, but often doing that sort of detached from the world, like a coolness towards the world around me, not a heartful connection. So I did not understand the Buddhist path very well at all in my preconceived notions of it. His book emphasizes that that is a huge and integral part, a very important part of the Buddhist path of exploration. The spiritual development is rooted in the heart, not just in intellectual understanding and wisdom or technique. It's cultivating compassion, love, and wisdom as lived qualities, not just states, not like a meditative state, a lived quality in the world. And the meditation is not simply a tool for achieving exotic states in some way or another, but it also has the power to connect us and to heal sometimes even psychological wounds that we have as human beings. It teaches us to turn toward difficulty, not to shy away from it, with kindness and compassion. The difficulty, the most clear difficulty that is described in the Buddhist path is suffering, suffering that arises when we don't like what we see, or we want too much of it, or we pretend that it's not real. Grasping, aversion, and delusion. These are some of the central forms of suffering that we experience according to Buddhist philosophy. He also talks about the danger of spiritual bypass, of pursuing those deeper states, meditative states, as a way of bypassing the fact that we are connected and that we do have hearts, we do have emotions, we do have struggles in our lives, that these things work together in the exploration. And that love itself is a path, just like Carlos Castaneda talked about. It's a path, and it's an important part of our Buddhist study path. So, one of the most fundamental teachings around this in Buddhist philosophy is the practice of loving kindness, which we practiced at the end of today's meditation. And this is simply a practice of developing and cultivating goodwill, a kind attitude towards ourselves and other beings. Just cultivating that through practicing. And this is something we do traditionally, and some of you already know this through the repetition of phrases. The phrases I offer this evening are kind of stock phrases, but you could also create phrases that are particular to your circumstances in life as well. They don't have to be these stock phrases that are offered. In fact, sometimes, the phrases that I offered might seem sort of soft-hearted in a way. You might need in your life at a certain point ferocity or determination or courage. May I be determined. May I stand up to authority. May I have a boundary. So it's not just, it can have a kind of ferocity to it. And I think that's really important for us to embrace, that it's not all soft-hearted. It's what we might need to manifest in our lives, in our relationships. And these are traditionally offered first to ourself, wishes for ourself, cultivating this attitude, kind, heartful attitude, an attitude of goodwill towards us. Then traditionally to a beloved being or a benefactor. Then to a neutral being, the people we pass on the street every day, or maybe someone at work that we don't know very well. Then to a difficult being, which as you can imagine, can be difficult. That practice can be very difficult to extend goodwill to someone who activates us or has maybe even hurt us in some way. And finally, to all beings. And to do this without any reservation. This is an important part of it. To not hold back, to practice fully opening. This takes practice. It's practice. It takes time, particularly with some of these categories, right? So the one category I mentioned, difficult people or difficult beings, might seem like it would be the most difficult, right? But what's often most difficult for practitioners is ourselves. Often very, very difficult for people to direct kind energy to themselves. I teach a class in mindful self-compassion. There's been a lot of research done on this. And if you poll at least people in the West, is it easier for you to be kind to yourself or to someone else? What do you think the response is? And it's about 80%. About 4 out of 5 people say, oh, it's much easier for me to be kind to someone else than it is for myself. Um, there's no judgment around this as I speak about this and offer this. If you fall into a different category, some people find it about equal. There's a small percentage of the population that finds it actually easier to be kind to themselves than someone else. But there's no judgment. This practice can be very powerful no matter where you fall in that spectrum. To continually practice being kind, loving, to be benevolent to ourselves, to our loved ones, to communities that we're in, to all beings even. And even sometimes, particularly as we practice forgiveness or letting go of being hurt by someone, to start to introduce that, to see that maybe it's less personal, you know, to try at least to open to that. And often the practice of this is not so much about them. When we talk about these categories, people tend to get focused on who it is we're directing the energy toward. The practice really is about developing and cultivating the energy in us. That's really the heart of it. It's important that there are people in our lives and that we can practice with them clearly. But it's really about cultivating that kind of heart, that kind of heart. So for some people, these kinds of phrases can seem kind of routine or rote or stock in a way that it's difficult to connect with. This was the way it was for me when I first started practicing them. But remember that it's not the words themselves, but also the tone. The tone of voice is a really, really important part of the practice. The expression on your face or even in your body, how you feel, how you hold your body as you imagine offering this good energy to yourself or someone else. You might experience it as a feeling or sensation in the body. It might be a sense of calm or emanation, a warmth from your heart. You might even use your imagination. You might feel as if light is emanating from your crown chakra or from your heart space, something like that, if that resonates with you. Um, if you're a little more of a mental person, you might rely on the mental clarity of understanding that this is good and having clear intention to manifest it. These are good ways for you to connect with it. So as we do this, no matter what our intention is, and I hope that our intention is good, an intention of goodwill, that's really at the heart of this practice, we are going to experience challenges. Everything that we do in life really has challenge to it. Part central to mindfulness practice in Buddhism is noticing what hinders or gets in the way of practice. And this is the same thing is true for loving kindness practice. Things can get in the way, right? So I want to move back to these categories as a jumping off point for how we might be hindered in practice. Can any of you imagine why you might meet obstacles in offering yourself kind, loving energy of goodwill? Can any of you imagine that? Any thoughts about that? What could get in the way? Any thoughts? Doubt, certainly. Yeah. Yeah. I can't do it. Yeah. Maybe your background, the programming has been a message of you can't do it, you know? Absolutely. For me, similar to that one was unworthiness or shame.
Mm. Mhm.
I'm not worthy of treating myself well. I'm not worthy of doing it. Any other thoughts? Yeah, Alexis. Yeah, 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 yeah. Pointless. Can't see where it's going. Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. Need. Yeah, yeah. Say more. Yeah. Ah, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. Hey, yeah, yeah. Sometimes the need for response or recognition or to be seen, we can get so attached to that that we lose the energy that's offered freely. Absolutely, yeah. What about things like, especially in modern life, social media, comparing ourselves to other people? Does that help any of you with your self-esteem sometimes? Yeah, not me. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You had comments? Yeah.
uh, that it's soft, that it's not disciplined,
Yes.
that it's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
constructive,
Yeah.
like it doesn't get me anywhere. It's kind of what you said about it, convincing ourselves that it's actually good.
Right.
Like
Right.
that's a big shift to actually learn
Yeah.
through experiencing it, that,
Yeah.
yeah, this is actually beneficial, to me and
Especially
other people.
exactly. I so appreciate this. Sometimes we get a message of we need to be strong. We don't let our guard down, and that's what is going to get us through life. And this might allow us a little, maybe a little more of a balance around that, at least moments of that being available to us to let that guard down. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Yeah. Comment. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe maybe the body was trained to constantly be on alert, that if you're
Yes.
stressed,
Yes.
to just relax. So not only is this a cognitive process, but the body kind of needs to unlearn,
Hmm.
you know, unlearn that peace is okay, peace is safe.
Yeah.
Of course, with safe surroundings.
Yeah. The that sort of on guardness is particularly true in people who have experienced trauma or harm. There's a constant feeling I need to protect myself unconsciously, and that can be a barrier, especially when we're offering this toward ourselves. So thank you. Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks. Thanks. Also, I was just thinking like change is uncomfortable. So even if we're used to a discomfort,
Sure,
it's hard to
sure,
change to something that could be more comfortable, the
sure.
transition.
A very wise person in my class, Madeline, who's here this evening, mentioned exactly what you did recently. We were talking about this a couple of weeks ago in my Monday class. And she said, very rightly so, that sometimes defenses can be protective to us. They really are. It's a strategy that we develop often when we are kids to help us get through. And then we realize when we're an adult, does that always really serve me? Maybe not, you know? But still to appreciate that it had a function. It was really trying hard to help, to hold it with compassion is really, really important. That was a great comment. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
It may feel self-indulgent or
Absolutely.
self-centered,
Absolutely.
especially in a world where we're really taught in society to think about others
Exactly.
and
Yeah. Sort of the converse of the social media thing, Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We don't really have permission to do that. Yeah. So let's, in the interest of moving on with the meeting, thank you so much. Great comments from everybody. I really appreciate it. Let's move through some of these others. Maybe it won't take quite as long. Again, as an exploration of how we are hindered in our practice from seeing clearly, from acting mindfully, truthfully, heartfully in relationships. So with someone that we seemingly love or care about, this, what you said sort of reminded me of this one. Sometimes we're so attached to them that we want something back. I'm loving you, you love me. So it's not really given freely. Yeah, that touched me when you said that. Absolutely. Because sometimes when we love or aspire to or offer or try to touch that energy in ourselves, sometimes opposite things arise. Sometimes the people that we love the most, we might also be envious of the most, or jealous of the most, or even sometimes resentful of the most. Relationships are complicated. As much as we love many people, we also feel other kinds of feelings. We experience other kinds of ways of connecting. And any of those can be right in our face as we, offer either in our own practice or, extending this out into real life energy, present energy of care and love and kindness to other people. Those can be barriers for us. Anything else in that realm that you can think of? I had yours listed there. So thank you. Yeah.
JD, I have a
Yeah.
question. It's
Madeline. Yeah.
Madeline here.
Yeah.
Um, I'm wondering about the notion of hindering or whatever you just said before,
Mhm.
blocking or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was taught to think of these things as teachers, and as practice itself, that this is what we're
That's right.
coming up to. It's not like we sit so we can be in bliss all the time, although we might wish that were true.
Yeah.
But actually, we are observing the construction of our sense of self, and we're finding this piece over here, and oh yeah, I feel that over there. And
Right.
anyway, so I don't see it as a hindrance. I see it as this is the purpose of what we're
So that's what in the Buddhist teachings, hindrances are taught pretty much exactly the way you just shared, Madeline.
Oh,
And I'm glad that you clarified that, because it's simply to notice their presence, just to
okay.
notice, right? And in noticing, the more we notice them, the more that they might dissolve a little bit or be less present in moments when our intention or aspiration is something else.
Mhm.
That's all they are. It's not to push them away. I got to get rid of that somehow or another. It's to notice. That's my understanding.
Right. Okay.
To
So I
notice.
did. I guess I did. I got hung up on the word.
Yeah. The word hindrance. Oh,
Yeah,
you're
I didn't understand maybe your
yeah.
use of the term
Thanks for
hindrance.
asking. Yeah, thanks for asking. Absolutely. Yeah. That point of clarity needed to be brought up. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
So I hope that's clear that this is part of practice. It's just to notice sometimes what is in the way of being clear, being truthful, being heartful, being present, being connected. That's all it is, just to notice. The instruction in the Eightfold Path, which are a set of instructions that the Buddha offered to alleviate suffering in our lives, there's an instruction called wise effort or right effort. And what that instruction says, the Buddha offers this instruction for us to practice, is that when we notice something is not supportive of goodwill in our lives, it's skillful to abandon it if we can, to let go of it, or to, if we can practice, to notice the conditions from which that arises and to practice letting go of those conditions, setting different conditions, setting conditions in which goodwill will arise is skillful, and supporting the sustaining of goodwill when it's present is also skillful. So that may be another way of extending your question, Madeline. Yeah, it's not about pushing them away. It's about practicing noticing, is this helpful to me or not? If it's not, it's skillful to practice in ways in which it might lessen in some way. Not push it away, but it might lessen. And to practice in ways in which goodwill, good attitude, good energy is more present and sustained. So, yeah, thanks for asking that. I think that's really important to clarify. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the others, a neutral person, I'll just give an example here. Um, I've passed people who are homeless or, psychotic on the street, and I'll admit it, I've felt disgust. I have. I felt indifference. I hope that person doesn't speak to me. I don't really want to address them right now. And that's not a supporting attitude or energy if I'm practicing goodwill toward neutral people in the world, right? But it's just noticing it again, just noticing, not berating myself, like, oh, you're a terrible person. I offer this just as an acknowledgement that this is what happens in our lives. This can happen. And that's a place of practice for me. Less so now than it was 30 years ago, but it still is sometimes a place for practice for me. Difficult people are difficult, and I offer here that you take care, especially if you're a newer practitioner, around offering or even attempting to offer goodwill or kindness to someone in your life who, particularly if someone's hurt you deeply. Some people are difficult just because they're irritating. It's maybe someone we don't even know that well. You can certainly practice with them, but if you've been injured, if you've had trauma or hurt, abuse from anyone, this is something you need to approach very, very carefully, very, very carefully. Maybe with the assistance of a counselor or a good friend, a pastor, someone who can really hold you, holds your energy, and protects you. As you maybe a teacher, as you go on that journey, and approach it very slowly, gently, if you want to do it, if you decide to do it. It can easily turn into something like hatred or deep aversion as we approach other people like that. And again, it might be justifiable that we, feel hurt or angered toward someone, but that can harden. And we have to be, careful around approaching that. It can really harden. We can have an opposite reaction of what our intention is toward them. So take care around that one. And then finally, all beings. Recently, I don't think any of you missed it. We sent a spacecraft out into space, and it went around the moon and came back. And there was an interview, group interview that was on the news just a couple of days ago with the crew members of that spacecraft. And it was really heartening to me to hear them talking about seeing the Earth rising over the edge of the moon and thinking about, that's another ship over there, an Earth ship, and it has a crew on it. And that crew is us. That crew is us. And there's a lot of talk about love, feeling love and connection, compassion for humanity, support, common interest, gratitude even. Really, really wonderful comments from these people who participated in this. And as we practice loving kindness for all beings, sometimes the breadth of humanity, and particularly when we look in the news around the world, all the suffering that's going on in the world around us, that can be hard to hold. That's the challenge. That's the hindrance for me often. It's so big. What does my one little voice have to offer, right? My one little voice, right? This might be a moment to see the earth like that big, like the astronauts saw it coming up over the moon, big enough that you could hold it in your hand, Here it is. It's not this. It's this. It's alive. It's full of humanity. And to give it a perspective, in your imagination, something you can work with, I offer this world full of beings that don't feel maybe as overwhelming to me. All these wonderful wishes of goodwill that we did earlier in the meditation. Put it in perspective for yourself. There's a really cool poem by a poet named Hafez that has its own moon language in it. Some of you have heard it before. It's called With That Moon Language. And it goes like this. Admit something. Everyone you see, you say to them, love me. Everyone you see, you say to them, love me. Of course, you don't do this out loud. Otherwise, someone would call the cops, right? They would. Still, though, think about this great pull in us to connect. Why not become the one with a full moon in each eye that is always saying, with that sweet moon language, what every other eye in this world is dying to hear? That's what we, and I think other beings, wish for, is just to connect, to hear, words of love and care and kindness and compassion. I think that's what those astronauts were talking about when they came back. And this is one of the things that, along with some of these books that I mentioned and practicing in community with other like-minded people like you, that inspires me in that vein to make this central to my practice, an attitude of goodwill, of kindness, of connection, and of love. So I appreciate your attention this evening. Thanks for being here, and nice to practice with you. So thank you.